Matthew 27, starting at verse 32. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him: "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests and teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over all the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the temple was torn in 2, from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God."
Well, do be seated. Do have that passage open there in Matthew chapter 27. He had seen men die before. He had executed criminals before. This wasn't new to him. It was just part of the job. Another day, another denarii, and another set of crosses with another group of condemned men breathing their last. He had watched rebels and thieves curse the sky, scream in agony, and beg for mercy. He had seen blood pour onto the ground, and he had heard blood-curdling cries. And it never fazed him. Not once. It just wasn't that he was used to it. No, he was numb to it. And he had to be. If the Roman executioner did not kill his victim, they themselves were killed. And so he was a hard man. For after all, let's be real, compassion has no place on a battlefield. Mercy has no place in an execution squad. Weakness gets you killed. He was hardened to the reality of death. He was a Roman. He He was a soldier. And a Roman soldier does not ask questions. A soldier of Rome does not hesitate. A soldier of Rome does what he is told to do. And this day, what he was told to do was to crucify this man. And so at the beginning of the day, it felt like just another day, another criminal, another cross, and another slow, agonizing death. He and his men had led Jesus through the streets, the same streets that just a week ago had shouted his praises, but today they're now not singing. They're screaming, "Crucify him." And he had seen it all before, the way that the mob can turn. He heard their taunts, their mocking, their laughing. For after all, he had seen insurrectionists, men who tried to stir up revolts, only to watch Rome crush them. He knew the pattern. A leader would rise, the people would rally, and then Rome would press down its might until it was done. But this time, something was different. This crowd wasn't just shouting for his death, and this man wasn't just another rebel. He wasn't claiming power. No, this man was claiming to be a Messiah. And yet still the same script plays out. The same beating, the same humiliation. But again, things are slightly different because this man is not an insurrectionist. He is said by the people to be some sort of king. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And so Rome begin to mock. Verse 27, the whole company of the guards, they gather and they place a purple robe on this king. And to add insult to injury, let's put a crown on this king, but let it be a crown of thorns. And then the centurion joins with the jokes as they mock this king. And then he is led away, and it goes back to the same old. Watching another man soon to be crucified in the last moments of his life, carrying his own crucifixion cross. And he had seen what plays out next. When the company of soldiers beat a man, sometimes that beating is so hard that men don't even make it to their cross. And some barely do. This man makes it, or barely. And so they have to get another man, a guy called Simon, verse 32, to carry the cross for Jesus. Eventually they make it to the place of execution, the place of the scroll, and our centurion has watched this man, this so-called Messiah, simply being led like a lamb to the slaughter. And then he is placed upon the cross. But as nails are driven into his wrists and into his feet, this man upon the middle cross does not fight back. He does not curse the soldiers. He doesn't even plead for pardon. Instead, he prays, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." The centurion pauses. He stops in his tracks. Did that middle man on the middle cross just say what I thought he said? And the prayer blows his mind. Because what kind of man says this? For after all, he knew the rhetoric. He knew the things dying men would say. Some curse the executioners. Some plead for mercy. Some weep in agony. But no one, and I mean no one, has ever prayed for the very men nailing them to the tree. No one looks at their killers with compassion, but the man upon the middle cross did. And from here, it's not the same old. It's not just another day in the office. No, this is far from a normal shift at work for the centurion. Verse 45 tells us there are 3 hours of darkness in the middle of the day. It's like the sun itself refuses to look on. It retreats at the horror of Golgotha. As the man upon the middle cross, who has simply so far prayed for his executioners, once more cries out in prayer, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me?" From there, the crowd who have been mocking begin to quiet down. Something is happening. Something that no one could explain seems to be going on. And then just like that, the very ground beneath the centurion's feet shake. Rocks split like clay. And then the man upon the middle cross lifts up his head, and with the last breath in his lungs, he cries out, "It is finished." From there soon, whispers begin to be heard that over on the other side of the city, in the sacred place of the Jews, in that room where only the high priest could go but once a year, the veil that separated the people from their God, that barrier that had stood for generation after generation, has been vandalized. It's been torn in two, but not from bottom to top, from top to bottom. The centurion had seen men die before. He had killed men before, but it never played out like this. Never had he felt the ground quake. Never had he seen the sky bow in mourning. Never had he felt fear like this. Not in battle, not in storms at sea, not even when standing before the might of Rome. And so, with blood on his hands, and the weight of something pressing in on his soul that he can't quite yet explain, he utters words that have echoed through history. Surely he was the Son of God. Friends, what was it? What was it that changed him? What was it that moved him? What was it that broke through the heart of a hardened Roman executioner? What did he see as he stared upon the man upon the middle cross? And friends, for you and I, we stand in the very same place this morning. We stand at the feet of the cross. You see, as we come to a Good Friday service and Good Friday itself, we come not just as distant observers, not simply as those reading from history, but as those this morning who must decide what we will do with the man upon the middle cross. And so I ask you, as you look at him, who and what do you see? Two very brief points for our time this morning. Notice with me, first of all, as we look at the cross, we see a picture of innocence. You have to understand this, that this soldier had put men to death before. He had watched men die. He had seen them under the agonizing weight of their own guilt. He had seen faces twist in terror as nails pierce flesh and crack bone. He had heard their desperate, breathless cries for mercy, the final gasp filled with panic and regret. And let's not be naive, he had seen innocence before. Men condemned by corrupt rulers, men caught in political traps, men who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But even those innocent men, when the time came, they would respond like every other person, with terror, with curses, with desperate bargaining. But Jesus, he does not plead for his life. No, when the nails are driven through his hands, he does not curse the executioners. When the crowd spit their venom, he does not spit back. When the weight of the world's sin is placed upon his shoulders, he does not demand justice for himself. Instead, he prays, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they do." Who does that? Who looks at his killers in their eyes and asks God to forgive them? The centurion, yes, he had seen guilty men die before. Yes, he had seen innocence before. But he had never, and I mean never, seen someone die like this. Pilate had already acknowledged it. I find no guilt in this man. The thief on the cross next to him had recognized that this man has nothing wrong. But friends, it was here, standing in the presence of a crucified king, that a soldier saw what Pilate had ignored. This was no criminal. This was no failed revolution. This was no insurrectionist. This was something altogether different. For do you see it? There was power in his innocence, authority in his suffering, healing, you might say, in his wounds. And so, for the first time in all of his life, the centurion now wasn't just witnessing another death. He was witnessing a sacrifice. Do you see it, friends? The cross declares to us the innocence of Jesus. I find nothing wrong in this man. And yet at the same time, it speaks to us of the sacrifice of Jesus. He is being led like a lamb to the slaughter. But notice with me this morning, it is not simply that Jesus is being led like a lamb to the slaughter because of the betrayal of Judas, or simply because of the corruption of the religious leaders, or the spinelessness of Pilate. No, Jesus, the truly innocent one, is going to the cross because the cross has always been the plan. It was God's predetermined plan from the foundation of the world that the serpent would be crushed, and the serpent would be crushed as the Son gives his life as a ransom for many. And so I ask you this morning, when you survey the wondrous cross, what do you see? Do you see just another man? Just another death? Or do you see God's Son, the innocent one? The one who is giving his life as a ransom and as a sacrifice for your sin. The cross is a picture of innocence. But notice, secondly, with me, the cross is also a picture, and it declares and displays to us something of power. Matthew's gospel begins with the heavens declaring and displaying something of the birth of the Messiah as a special star appears in a sky. And so it is only right and fitting at the end of the life of Christ, this King, once more the heavens display and declare something of the death of Christ. For what did we read in that passage? That the rocks split, the earth shakes, creation itself reacts. There are 3 hours of darkness in the afternoon. And this is the kind of darkness in the afternoon that just doesn't happen. Not at this hour, not in this way. This is not a passing cloud or an eclipse of the sun. It is a shutting down. It is like light itself recoils and shudders at the reality of what it is seeing. And what happens in those moments? Well, deep in the heart of Jerusalem, in the holiest place on earth, the massive curtain that separated the presence of God from sinful people is torn in two. It is as if God has reached down and ripped apart the barrier. This is not normal. This is power. This is cosmic power. And as the centurion looked on, he realized that this was not a coincidence. It's clear this is not just another man. This is not just another execution. No, creation itself is reacting to his death. This is power. And it's cosmic power. And so it's clear to see for this centurion, something is before his eyes that was greater than Rome. Someone before his eyes was greater than Caesar. Greater than anything he had ever witnessed. And suddenly this man, this hardened soldier who had spent his life believing in the might of the sword and the power of the army, is confronted there that day with a power that he could not control. A power that he could not explain, a power that terrified him, because this is a power that does not come through the sword. Do you see it? This man witnesses cosmic power. Creation itself reacts. The earth splits, the sun recoils, the temple curtain exposes the holy presence of God, and it drives him to a conclusion. Verse 55, surely he was the Son of God. Do you see it for this man? He had put his trust in the might of Rome, but Rome could not make the earth shake. He had served the emperor, but the emperor could not blot out the sun. He had believed in the strength of Rome, Rome's walls, Rome's roads, Rome's rule carved into hardened rock. But that same rock now cracks as if it can't stay silent at what's happening. He had carried out countless crucifixions, but no man had ever died like this. And so, yes, while he laughed earlier when they called him a king, it's now not a joke. And in that moment, at the feet of the cross, all of his assumptions and all of his certainty shatters to pieces. For there, by the foot of the cross, for the first time in his life, he doesn't really know who's in charge. For now, let's be clear, this man upon the cross, bleeding and broken, looks more powerful than any ruler of Rome. He's clearly not just a man. This was clearly not just a revolution. No, rather, this man, this bloodied, crucified, silent in his death man, had more authority in his dying than Caesar ever has in his living. And so he said it. Not out of duty, not out of fear, but simply because deep within his soul he knew it was true. Surely he was the Son of God. Friends, as we stand before the cross today, we too are confronted with the undeniable power of God. Power that shakes the earth, eclipses the sun, and cracks the clay. But the question I ask you is, how do you respond? Just as the centurion's world that day was rocked by the reality of this cosmic power, so too you and I are called to reckon with this truth. That the cross is not just a historical moment, it is a defining moment for each and every one of us this morning. And so will we, like the centurion, look at the man on the middle cross and declare, surely he was the Son of God? Or will we continue in our lives to trust in lesser powers? Whether it's the power of our strength, the illusion of control, or the fleeting promises of this world. You see, for you and I this morning, the question is not, does this power exist? No, the question is, will you submit to this power? Will you recognize the cross as the display of God's power, not simply over creation, but over sin, Satan, and death itself? Or will you stand back, unmoved, as creation itself bears testimony to the most incredible, powerful moment in history? You see, here's the thing this morning, the cross demands a response. You don't just get to stand at the feet of the cross, hear Jesus' words, see his suffering, feel the weight of that moment, and then walk away like nothing happened. The centurion couldn't. The man who had been there, who had likely driven in the nails, who stood guard over the dying, who had seen countless executions, knew that this was different. He saw what the religious leaders missed, what the mocking crowd ignored, what the self-righteous refused to believe, and in that moment he realized this was not just another man. Surely he was the Son of God. Friends, you can shrug it off like many did. You can dismiss it like Pilate tried to. You can reject it like the Pharisees did, or you can see it for what it is. That the cross is the most significant moment in history. The moment when sin is defeated, when darkness is crushed, when salvation is secured. So I ask you, what will you do with Jesus? Like the centurion, will you look up at that cross, see the suffering Savior, feel the weight of what he has done, and then will you confess with your lips and believe in your heart, truly, this is the Son of God? Because this is the power of the cross.